Right now, Florida law enforcement agencies are working with ICE to arrest illegal immigrants. In just the past week, nearly 800 illegal immigrants have been arrested. Some of them were found in Central Florida, in Polk County.
Florida has become ground zero for one of the most aggressive crackdowns on foreign gang activity in American history. While politicians debate immigration policy in Washington, sheriffs across the state are arresting hundreds of criminals who entered the country illegally and immediately started victimizing American communities. What law enforcement discovered is more organized and more violent than anyone anticipated. Polk County became the battleground where local deputies confronted a sophisticated criminal enterprise operating across multiple Florida counties. 5 suspects tied to a Venezuelan organized crime syndicate were taken into custody.
5 men are behind bars accused of being involved in a string of robberies linked to a violent Venezuelan gang. It's all part of a larger program called Operation Tidal Wave.
After an investigation revealed they'd been systematically targeting high-end retailers. This wasn't random crime. It was coordinated theft being directed by handlers who'd perfected these operations in other countries before bringing them to American soil. Sheriff Grady Judd's department has maintained a straightforward policy.
I mean, we're really not doing anything different than we've always done. When we come across those people in our normal course of duties that are here illegally, we report them to ICE. And ICE tells us whether or not to hold them. Right now, there's about 94 ICE holds on people in the county jail.
When deputies encounter someone during routine law enforcement who's in the country illegally, they notify federal immigration authorities. Currently, nearly 100 individuals sit in Polk County Jail with immigration holds, awaiting transfer to federal custody. But the recent operation went beyond individual arrests. It dismantled an entire criminal network that had been operating with impunity across Central Florida.
Last week, we wrapped up an investigation about this violent gang that came up here out of Venezuela illegally. This particular operation, they were going around to Publix's, Sam's, and as they would enter, they would leave with large amounts of very expensive liquor.
The gang's business model was simple but effective. Teams would hit Publix grocery stores and Sam's Club warehouses, stealing high-value alcohol in quantities that suggested they had buyers lined up before the thefts even occurred. These weren't opportunistic smash and grabs. These were calculated operations targeting specific merchandise that moves quickly on black markets. The stolen goods would disappear into criminal distribution networks, generating cash that funded further criminal activity. When arrests were finally made, the transformation in suspects was dramatic. One defendant who'd projected an image of ruthless criminality broke down completely when confronted with the reality of American.
You know, interestingly enough, I have a picture of one of them here. Look at there, he's crying. I think he knows that he's leaving here, and once he gets finished with prison in Florida upon his conviction, then maybe he'll end up in, one of those jails someplace that he doesn't like. But he's gone from a very mean, bad, dangerous person to crying about being arrested.
The tough guy persona evaporated, replaced by tears and the crushing realization that he'd be spending years in a Florida prison before being permanently removed from the country. This pattern repeated across multiple arrests. Criminals who thought they could import their tactics from Venezuela discovered that American law enforcement wasn't playing games. The legal process moves methodically, but inevitably. Suspects with criminal charges remain in county custody with ICE detainers attached to their cases. Once they've completed whatever prison sentence Florida courts impose, federal immigration authorities have 48 hours to take custody and transfer them to immigration detention facilities. From there, deportation proceedings remove them permanently from American soil. It's a system designed to ensure that foreign nationals who victimize Americans face consequences before being expelled. But the Venezuelan gang arrests weren't the only violence Polk County deputies faced recently. In a disturbing 3-week period, the department was involved in 3 separate fatal shootings. All 3 incidents involved suspects who attacked law enforcement, and all 3 suspects were methamphetamine users, a fact Sheriff Judd emphasized to counter narratives that drug crimes are nonviolent. The first incident involved a suspect who opened fire on a Bartow police officer, hitting him in the vest. Had that officer not been wearing body armor, he'd be dead. The suspect also shot a deputy with the bullet passing through his arm. When backup arrived, the suspect fired 8 rounds into a deputy's patrol car before officers returned fire and killed him. This wasn't someone trying to surrender. This was someone trying to murder as many cops as possible. The third shooting was equally terrifying. A suspect charged directly at a deputy while screaming that he had a knife. Despite commands to stop, he continued his attack, forcing the deputy to use lethal force. These weren't situations where deputies had options. These were split-second decisions where hesitation would have meant officers going home in body bags instead of suspects going to the morgue. Sheriff Judd expressed frustration with narratives that portray drug offenses as nonviolent, victimless crimes. The evidence from his county tells a different story. There's a direct correlation between illegal drug use and violence directed at law enforcement and communities. Methamphetamine doesn't just destroy users' lives, it turns them into weapons who attack anyone trying to help or stop them, including deputies just trying to keep communities safe. One suspect essentially committed suicide by cop, a tragedy that was entirely predictable. He told his mother the night before that he had outstanding felony warrants and that she'd probably never see him again. The next day, he attacked deputies, forcing them to use deadly force. He'd made his choice, and deputies had no option but to respond to protect themselves and the public. The deputy who was shot in the arm recovered at home, offering a darkly humorous take on his injury. He said getting shot hurt less than the kidney stone he passed the day after being released from the hospital. That kind of toughness defines the men and women who patrol Florida's most dangerous areas, facing threats from foreign gangs and domestic criminals who view law enforcement as obstacles to be eliminated rather than authority to be respected. Florida's aggressive approach to foreign gang activity has made it a model for other states grappling with similar problems. The combination of local law enforcement working seamlessly with federal immigration authorities creates a system where criminals can't hide behind jurisdictional confusion or sanctuary policies. When Venezuelan gang members thought they could operate in Florida the same way they operated back home, they discovered that American sheriffs have resources, authority, and determination that criminals from failed states never anticipated. The message is clear: come to Florida to commit crimes, and you'll leave in handcuffs headed for prison and deportation. The state has become inhospitable terrain for foreign criminals, and that's exactly how law enforcement wants it. Every arrest dismantles networks, every prosecution sends messages to would-be criminals still contemplating whether to bring their operations to American soil. Florida isn't just enforcing laws, it's waging a deliberate campaign to make the state too dangerous for criminals to operate, too hostile for gangs to establish footholds, and too committed to public safety for politicians to interfere with effective law enforcement.